Namo tassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. All right, so if you would turn to page number 268. We are to start from latent dispositions. Latent dispositions. 7 latent dispositions. The latent disposition 2, the latent disposition 2, 1, sensual lust. 2, attachment to existence. 3, aversion. 4, conceit. 5, wrong views. 6, doubt. 7, ignorance. So in Pali, Kamaraga Anusaya, Bhavaraga Anusaya, Patiga Anusaya, Mana Anusaya, Dittanusaya, Vichikicha Anusaya, and Avidya Anusaya. Guide to verse 9. The latent dispositions, Anusaya, are defilements which lie along with Anusenti. The men lie along with the mental process to which they belong. Again, the latent dispositions are defilements which lie along with the mental processes to which they belong, rising to the surface as obsessions whenever they meet with suitable conditions. The term latent dispositions highlights the fact that the defilements are liable to arise so long as they have not been eradicated by the supramundane paths. Though all defilements are, in a sense, anusayas, the 7 mentioned here are the most prominent. Both sensual lust and attachment to existence are modes of greed. The others are each distinct chetasikas. Thus, altogether, 6 chetasikas function as anusayas. Function as anusayas. Now, though all defilements are in a sense anusayas, the 7 mentioned here are the most prominent. Both sensual lust and attachment to existence are modes of greed, which is 1, greed chetasika, and the others have their own distinct chetasikas. Thus, altogether 6, right? Altogether 6. Now, we've gone through the anusayas, I think, many times over in different ways, with different graphs and different sort of modes of really approaching the subject. Is there any questions that anyone would like to ask with regards to the anusayas?
Bhante?
Yes.
I'm wondering what the difference is between anusayas and klesas. From what I understand, anusayas are somewhere under the surface, and when they reach the 3 stages of existence, they are no longer anusayas, but they become kilesas. Is that right?
Well, okay, interesting question. They say there are 3 types of kilesas, isn't it? Right? Which is the Anusaya kilesa, the Vitikama kilesa, and the Pariuttana kilesa. No, I'm sorry. Anusaya, Pariuttana, Vitikama. Right? Vitikama kilesas. Now, on that, kilesa, if we take the word kilesa, in Sinhala, the meaning would come as kelesenama, or making dirty, making impure.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the process or the things that makes, or rather the phenomenon that makes one impure, are then in the kilesas divided into 3 parts, one of which is the Anusaya. Right? One of which is the Anusaya. So the question is, or rather the question should be, in a way, how does the Anusaya then defile? Because it seems that kilesa, or when we refer to kilesa, it is a term used as, which is like an umbrella, which holds different other processes under it. All of these processes equally defile. If we are referring to, then there should be no question there then. Do you get what I mean? Right? Kilesas refers to anything that defiles, and one of the things that defiles is the Anusaya. The Anusaya is such that, as mentioned here, which lie along with the mental process to which they belong to, right? Hence, sort of being the foundational support for these different kilesas to arise. Yeah. But Anusayas themselves are kilesas, as much as the Pariuttana and the Vitikama are kilesas as well, right? When we refer to the term Nikleshi, right, that term is only used to refer to an Arahant, right? An Arahant. Now, before one attains to Arahanthood, when you are a non-returner, right, still you have the kilesas. But the kilesas here, more than the Pariuttana and the Vitikama, can be more of the Anusaya, right? Because of the bhavana, because of the sila and the bhavanamaya samadhi, you do not get the Pariuttana and the Vitikama kilesas coming into sight, if I may say sight, right? Then it is only the Anusayas which are within the mind, which produces sankharas, which again sort of helps in the process of, or supports the process of rebirth and death. Is that clear?
Sort of.
So the question is, what is the difference between kilesha and Anusaya? Right? There is no difference, I would say. I think the question is ill-formed because they are on 2 different levels. Not levels. They are 2 different terms referring to 2 different processes. Right? The kileshas is that which defiles. The Anusaya is a specific way that the defilement proceeds, or a different level in which the defilement exists, which is as a latent tendency. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. 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 All right. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. 10 fetters, Suttanta method. 10 fetters according to the Suttanta method. The fetters of sensual lust, 1. 2, attachment to fine material existence. 3, attachment to immaterial existence. 4, aversion. 5, conceit. 6, wrong views. 7, adherence to rites and ceremonies. 8, doubt. 9, restlessness. 10, ignorance. Abhidhamma method. We have 1, sensual lust. 2, attachment to existence, bhavaraga, okay, which in the Suttanta method was attachment to the fine material and the immaterial. So there are 2 there, but in the Abhidhamma, it is referred to as attachment to existence. 3, aversion. 4, conceit. 5, wrong views. 6, adherence to rites and rituals. 7, doubt. 8, envy, which is not there in the Suttanta method. 9, avarice. And 10, ignorance. The fetters are unwholesome mental factors which binds beings to the round of existence. The fetters. In Pali, samyojana, right? In Pali, samyojana, right? Yojana, yoga means to bind. Sam brings the meaning to mean bind together, right? Samyojana. The fetters are unwholesome mental factors which binds beings to the round of existence. The first of the 10 fetters is mentioned both in the Sutta Pitaka and the Abhidhamma Pitaka. The second set only in the Abhidhamma Pitaka. In the first set, 1 to 3 are aspects of greed, and 6 to 7 aspects of wrong view. The rest are distinct Cetasikas. In the second set are aspects of greed. 1 to 2 are aspects of greed. 5 to 6 are aspects of wrong view, and the rest are distinct Cetasikas. Now, it is interesting when we go through the different sort of compartments of Dhamma that we have been going through in this chapter, you find that the Cetasikas play this predominant role of holding or carrying rather both the wholesome aspects, the attributes from that which aids in the enlightenment process, and also on the other hand, it also carries and sort of brings the unwholesome aspects, right? All existing at different levels, and owing to, remember that just because a Cetasika is named, let us say, wrong view, for example, as an example of a fetter, right? Wrong view, right? Now, if we remind ourselves the unwholesome that has wrong view as a part of it as a Cetasika, we should know that dependent on the consciousness that arises, the degree, the category of wrong view does differ. It is not the same, wholly owing to what the consciousness and the consciousness process is. Do you understand? Right? So the existence of the Cetasikas amongst its different levels, right? Owing to what is suitable and fitting to that specific consciousness process that is being, or that is going on, at that moment, right? So the wrong view that possibly you had 10 minutes ago might not arise at this specific moment in time, right? Owing to that specific consciousness that did arise, right? Now, the dangerous part is this. Now, this is again why the Buddha would say that wrong view is the worst of the heinous crimes that one can commit upon oneself. Remember that, right? Being a Niyatamitya Dushrika, the Buddha says, is the worst of all crimes that one can commit against oneself in the whole cycle of samsara. And this is because when the impulsion, when wrong view sets into its stage of impulsion, the jhana processes, and when the jhana processes re-advert the same wrong view again and again and again and again, the way the mechanism of the chitta viti process can in that process be altered, right? Now, because of the power of the impulsion, the Votapana changes. The Votapana, which is divisible into two, Yoniso and Ayoniso, owing to this wrong view, at any moment that specific object is taken, let's say wrong view with regards to rebirth, for example, just an example, rebirth. The moment the rebirth is now being sort of calculated in mind or is going through a process of consciousness, that impulsive process, or rather jhana process which created that energy, will now re-advert itself through the Votapana and apply the wrong view again and again to that which is now being taught. That is what happens when it comes to Niyata Mithya Dushrika. The jhana is so powerful that it will adopt and influence in its future processes of mind the Votapana. And now the Votapana, because of the strength of the jhana, which is carried on through the chitta parampara, right? It now alters the way the yonso and the ayonso mansikara will be selected. When it switches on to now the ayonso mansikara, the impulsion now grows stronger, because it is not just you. That is why even in Dhamma it says that, it's not easy for everyone to just fall into Mithya Dushrika, right? I mean, I remember, just studying, back in school, some of the Buddhist teachers used to say, the Christians are Mithya Dushrikas and blah, blah, blah. No, that doesn't happen like that, right? Mithya Drustika, according to some of these Buddhists, everyone other than the Buddhists are Mithya Drustika, which is entirely, completely wrong. It does not happen like that. Right? It does not happen like that. And also, it is only those beings with a certain amount of intellect who can also fall into being Mithya Drustika. Do you understand? Right? Now, how does that happen? Because the object has to be scrutinized. Whatever the object is, it is scrutinized in a particular fashion. Do you understand? That scrutiny, that process of scrutiny cannot be done by everyone. Do you understand? Right? So even if it's a science experiment or whatever, right? Even if the experiment is going horribly wrong, right? However, it is a person who understands to a certain extent the operations of that experiment who would continue to go ahead. right? If you have nothing, if you don't know A or B, you have nothing to do with the subject. Should you have some sort of knowledge over A and B, maybe then you go ahead. In the same way, not everyone can become Niyata Mithya Dustika, because the impulsions will not be able to calibrate such power. Do you understand? Because the impulsions need support to calibrate that amount of power. And if it doesn't calibrate that power, it will not shift the pattern by which the mind operates to a level where now it switches from yonso to ayonso manasikara and stays there when it comes to a specific object, right? That is why when you become mithya dustika and you continue along that, you end on becoming niyata mithya dustika, where no one, not even all the Pachika Buddhas and the Buddhas of the world preaching Dhamma to you at the same time or at different times in all the modes and mechanisms, yet is unable to pull you out of that pit of wrong view. Do you understand? Right? So not everyone can be mithya dustika, and especially niyata mithya dustika, right? Also, if we imagine mithya dustika as the Tripitaka explained, mithya dustika, it does say that it's like a quicksand, like a pit, of mud that you can't come out of, right? If a person can be easily swayed from a specific point of view, right? Now, let's say, for example, the Bible, just as an example, right? And you would say something about the Bible. No. Let's take the Tripitaka as an example. That's safer. The Tripitaka, okay? Let's say the Metta Sutra in the Tripitaka you take, and you're telling, you're explaining this to your son, who might be a middle-aged man, it doesn't matter, right? And your son says something to you, oh, but this doesn't make sense, right? And now you're like, oh yes, it doesn't make sense, does it? I wonder why. I should ask Bhante next time I see him. Right? Now that kind of an attitude does not lead you to mithya dustika. Do you understand? Mithya dustika is being firmly settled on an idea. Niyata mithya dustika is being so firmly settled that you cannot be pulled out of the idea, even by tugging on your hair and ears. You cannot be pulled out of that idea. Do you understand? Right? So it is rather unfair. I mean, it is wrong. It is clearly wrong that, if as Buddhists, knowing these words of mithya dustika, if we would say that other people of other religions, or even actually people who don't practice Buddhism, are mithya dustikas, that is a wrong claim. It is not so, right? It is not so, right? Is that clear? Any questions?
Yes, Bhante, I have a question.
Yes, Sujata.
When you say mithya dustika, the English term is the wrong view, is it? Like that it goes? Wrong view.
Yes.
You mean, Bhante, yeah, wrong view for anything, you mean. Now, this doesn't apply only to a religion or anything else, only for that.
Wrong view with regards to, as I remember, 6. Let's count. Karma, vipaka, past lives, future lives, past and future lives, 8-fold noble path, 4 noble truths, Parijasampada, 8.
Yeah.
So wrong views with regards to these 8 categories.
Okay. Then, Bhante, we can have wrong views to other things as well, can't we? In a general conversation.
Yes. of course, but they do not alter the course of your future existence.
What's that?
Now, okay, let's say you twist a bottle onto it clockwise, yeah? That's how you tighten a bottle, right?
Yeah.
You have this wrong view that you can tighten the bottle by twisting it anti-clockwise.
Well, yes.
Right? I mean, an example such as that, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is true. This might be a wrong view, but this will not affect your samsara.
Right. Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Then if you are a follower of Scientology,
Scientology.
Okay, this is the end of today's session. Goodbye, everyone. Yes, Shriyani, yes. Scientology.
it is a form of belief, and people are believe in that they follow that, isn't it? Through the scientific analysis, and that is how their belief is being built.
It's all wrong.
I mean, it is a cult. I think it's
Yes.
Is it? We have, I think, Scientology centers. There are Scientology centers.
Yes. In Hollywood there is.
But I think Scientology is really, really famous in America.
Yes, Bhante. Bad boy. Yeah.
You know.
Following Scientology. All these mithya drishtikayo following Scientology.
Well, the thing is, Scientology with practices such as those, I mean, it is known to be a cult.
Yes.
A cult that people cannot sometimes escape. You know, there are Netflix documentaries on, you know, people who have tried to escape those cults, you know.
Yes.
But when it comes to now this interesting question, Shriyani, actually.
Thank you.
So when it comes to, yes, being a part of something, but the thing is, we cannot classify that whole group. We could, if all members of the group believe absolutely in its entirety what they profess. Now you have sort of, I think it was some Hollywood superstars who, you know, sort of,
Yes.
you know,
Most of them are in it, Bhante.
Yes, some of them, just one moment, just some of them sort of, you know, went into it and then they came out of it, you know, and
Yes.
and now you see, going to sort of see what it is essentially does not put you into a mithya drishtika category. The firmness of view is an important and imperative aspect of mithya drishtika.
Bhante, can I mention something? We have been to a Scientology organization. They first give their book to read, you know, big bound book by the person who started. It's all wrong view. Just because they gave, we look at it and threw the book away. You know, like you said, when people who are in it, those people are so arrogant, they won't let people go out of it if they go and follow, you know.
Yes.
There is a thing like that.
Something else, Bhante, I can add to that. A lady who has done a PhD in science, I think it's in zoology, something like that. She tells me, I said, I want to go to the temple. No, I am a scientist, therefore I don't have a religion, she said. So I just kept quiet. I didn't want to argue with her. A scientist, she says she has no religion, but she's a born Buddhist. That much I know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important for all of us to understand that we are also, I mean, Srila, we do not realize this, but do you realize that we are actually atheists?
atheists.
Yes, yes, we are.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Buddhism is an atheistic religion. You know, we are
Yes.
actually atheists, right? But but we do not say this. You know, we do not. You know, this is not something that we would. You know, that would cross our minds to say. But actually, we are atheists. We do not have a religion in that sense.
So she's right then.
Yes, I mean, I would say that she is right. But the thing is, I think when she says, okay, you know, I don't believe in religion, I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist. She's kind of like putting it aside. And I think sort of the best form is to sort of have a very open mind with regards to whatever it is, you know what I mean? All right. So moving
Yeah, thank you, Bhante.
defilements, right? Defilements. Now, is it clear the role, what fetters up, right? What fetters up samyojanas? We've gone through the difference between the Suttanta method and the Abhidhamma method. Suttanta method and the Abhidhamma method. Now, defilements. Ten defilements: greed, hatred, delusion, conceit, wrong views, doubt, sloth, restlessness, shamelessness, fearlessness of wrongdoing. Fearlessness of wrongdoing. The defilements, kilesha, are so called because they afflict or torment the mind, or because they defile beings by dragging them down to a mentally soiled and depraved condition, right? A depraved condition. So the kilesas, when we speak about the kilesas, the 10 sorts of kilesas, the 10 types of kilesas that have been mentioned in the Dhamma are mentioned here. It says, torment the mind, or because they defile beings by dragging them down to a mentally soiled and depraved condition, right? Which is to say, the defilements are not factors that only Buddhists should be concerned about. Any sort of human, right, with defilements, the defilement keeps one from, if I may say, a luminous, clear mind. It hinders, it burdens, it pulls the mind down to what? A soiled and depraved condition. Right? A soiled and depraved condition. That is what the defilements do. It defiles the mind. Do you understand? Right? In a way, as if, you know, a soiled pot is now being used to cook, it will alter the taste. It will not give the taste that it should have. In the same way, these defilements defile the mind and brings the mind down from what it could potentially or could have truly experienced in terms of that which is good, wholesome, fitting to the mind. All right. Verse 13, a clarification. The defilements as mental factors. Now, page number 270, please. Page number 271. Herein, among the things, etc., it is craving that is intended by the term sensual desire and attachment to existence. Since it has them as its basis, it is wrong view that is spoken of as adherence to rites and ceremonies. Adherence to rites and ceremonies. The dogmatic belief that this alone is the truth and clinging to a doctrine of self because it occurs in such modes. Again, the dogmatic belief that this alone is the truth and clinging to a doctrine of self because it occurs in such modes. Okay, let's break apart. This alone is the truth, because this is something that we hear often, isn't it? You know, this alone is the truth, right? How would the mind of, let's say, of a disciple of the Buddha face this sort of a thing, do you think? This alone is the truth. What do you think? Now the Buddha preaches something, right? The Buddha preaches something. Not enlightened, just a mundane disciple of the Buddha, right? But in good practice, how would such a being, you know, the Buddha has taught something, and of course there are other teachers around who also teach. In the mind, what kind of dialogue would be present within a person who is on the right path? What do you think? Maybe I'm not clear. Am I clear? I'm not clear. I'm not clear, right? Okay.
Couldn't understand the question really, Bhante. To me.
Okay. This alone is a truth. This alone is a truth. Right? This is something that we often hear. We might have also said this. This alone is a truth. Right? Now it clearly says, and not only in this place, but we've also come across the same thing, saying that this is wrong in sutras and Abhidhamma. So how should a disciple's mind look at different doctrines and different teachings, including the teachings of the Buddha?
Bhante, is it through experience?
A bit vague, but in the mind, if we are to say now, the Buddha is saying something, right? And
Buddha said that Buddha said, don't believe what I say, but you have to understand it and then believe if you think it's right.
Do you remember the Pali word for that?
I don't know much about Pali.
We discussed a Pali word for that. Do you remember? About breaking apart, about understanding, about true understanding when it comes to prajna. I think this was in a sutra class, I think.
Prapancha?
No, not prapancha. This was prajna, and the way prajna works. There was a Pali word, even I can't remember.
Prajna Gotara is a word.
No, now you're just bringing words with.
I'm guessing,
no.
yes.
No. I'll look for the word, right? But in essence, what that word meant was this. Prajna is the ability to understand, break apart, and understand the meaning of what it's meant for, right? Prajna is not, so prajna, if this is the Dhamma, prajna is not the acceptance of this Dhamma. Prajna does not work in that manner, right? Prajna works in the manner of investigation. That's the English word. Investigation. That's the English word. I can't remember the Pali word, if anyone remembers.
Bhante,
Yes.
it's in Paticca Magga, it says that Padattena Panya.
Padattena Panya.
That means whatever you realize will be the Panya.
Yeah.
Padattena. Padattena is coming from the word Pajanati.
Yeah.
Padattena Panya.
Not the exact word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Because there was a very lucid word which was mentioned, I think, in one of the sutra classes when we were talking about prajna, and which clearly explained that prajna is the ability to truly understand rather than accept, to break apart and understand rather than to accept. So then when we apply that same factor of the way prajna works into what is said here with regards to this alone is the truth, this alone is the truth is not a mentality that would arise in an enlightened being or a being who is on a progressive journey towards enlightenment, because a being who is on a progressive journey towards enlightenment would have the skill and habit of breaking apart before understanding. Do you understand? Like, for example, different people came to visit the Buddha and they said different things, isn't it? And we see this in the sutras, right? They say, oh, he says this in this way, she says this in this way, this occurred to me, that occurred to me. You find all of these different things. That does the Buddha say, I say it in this way? No, the Buddha would take that and then explain as to why this is right or wrong. And then he would give the sadhaka, the supporting factors and evidence to say, okay, because of this, this can't be the marga, because of this, this is the amarga, or the marga, whatever it is. Do you understand? Right?
Bhante,
That is the mentality that would be within the disciple. Yes, Tamari.
I just remembered another English word, that is the discernment. So it doesn't matter what you hear, you discern. What you,
discern what?
But I can't remember the Pali word.
Discernment, yes. I think it was an English word. It wasn't a Pali. It was the way that it was translated. No? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. There might be a Pali word also. Okay. Anyways, discernment. Discernment. Yes. That's the word. Discernment. The way of discerning what that truth is. Do you understand? So also, if you just think about the lightness, the shunyata element of which is existent within the mind of an enlightened being, when a person is working with shunyata, that person is said to be a very light and simple person, right? Meaning the person does not have the weight of the different sort of views. He's freed. This sort of a person, it would be unfitting for this sort of a person to hold one specific thing as the be-all and the end-all. Right? The Buddha never related the Dhamma in such a manner, isn't it? Right? As it came, as it was suggested, the Buddha would solve. That is the nature of an enlightened mind. Remember that the enlightened mind, or a being who attains enlightenment through the complete acceptance and understanding of what we refer to as emptiness or shunyata. Do you understand? Right? The term of, what's the term? This alone is the truth, is like having a small stall by the side of a road and having one bowl of something and serving handouts of that bowl to everyone, regardless of whether they need it or not. This is not, or that is not the way enlightened beings work. Do you understand the point that I'm trying to make? Is it clear? What am I trying to say, if anyone can sort of relate to me?
Bhante,
Yes, Chamari.
are you suggesting that an enlightened being doesn't have to hold any view just as things arise in the world? He or she will be able to respond to it?
Yes.
Rather than having to have something in the computer.
Stored.
Stored somewhere.
Exactly. And this is actually explained. I just remember when Chamari started speaking, this is actually explained in with regards to the knowledge of omniscience. Now the Buddha is omniscient. But the question comes, does the Buddha actually know all in this moment? The answer is no. The Buddha,
not all at the same time. Only when it's needed.
Only when it is taken as object. Right?
Yeah.
Or else only at the moment that it is taken as object. So the Buddha is not on a constant cycle of thinking and comprehending all that he knows. Rather, he's so skillful and he's on the right path of mental attitude, mental quietude, and all of those aspects of enlightenment, that anything that comes his way, he's able to understand, solve, and also explain. Do you get the point?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that is what I am trying to say.
Bhante.
Yes.
Bhante. Bhante, tikka panya kiyanakata මොකද්ද? tikka panya කියන්නේ හොඳට නුවණ කියන.
Nuwana.
Yeah, nuwana. Yeah, right, yes.
So that is the ability of adverting to an object.
Okay.
Right?
Thank
Adverting to an object. Rani, you unmuted your mic. Did you have something? No, I guess not. Okay, anyone else?
Bhante, what is Vijnanaya, please? Does it matter? Does it come in there?
What is Vijnane?
Yeah, with that missing word I was thinking.
Well, Vijnane would be translated as consciousness.
Consciousness?
Yes.
No.
Why? This is the first time you heard this, Sujana?
No, I'm thinking of something else really.
Yes, probably.
Discernment was Vijnana, I thought, for a moment.
Discernment is another translation of the word prajna.
Prajna, all right, okay.
Prajna, discernment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, brother.
All right. All right. Now, moving on. So that is clear. This alone is the truth, and the clinging to a doctrine of self, because it occurs in such modes, all fall under that adherence to rites and ceremonies. Silabhata Paramasa. Right? Silabhata Paramasa. Which actually makes sense, a lot of sense, because I think on this journey towards enlightenment, what we try to achieve is a state of lightness of mind, and building ditthis and sticking to ditthis is only going to do the right opposite. Summary: by way of entity, the taints, floods, bonds, and knots are threefold. They are two kinds of clinging spoken of, and 8 hindrances. The latent dispositions are only 6, and fetters can be understood as 9. the defilements are 10. Thus, the compendium of evil is stated as 9-fold, right? As 9-fold. Now, let's come back to page number 270, please. The taints. Greed, you find the mental factors, right? And then, of course, the defilements or the different types of evils that have been spoken of in this chapter. The taints, the floods, the bonds, the knots, the clingings, the hindrances, dispositions, fetters, and defilements. Taints are the mental factors of greed, wrong view, and delusion, all three. Floods, greed, wrong view, and delusion. How many floods were there? Yeah.
4, Bhante.
4. And of the 4, the flood of sensual desire and the flood of attachment to existence all are in 1, right? Hence, we have 3 here. Bonds, greed, wrong view, and delusion, right? Same thing as the 2 types of greed brought into 1 here as a Chaitasika. Knots. Knots. Greed, wrong view, and hatred. 3. How many knots altogether? Yeah.
Is it 4?
No, so 4. No. Yes, sorry. Yes, 4. Covetousness, ill will, adherence to rites and ceremonies, and bodily not of dogmatic belief. So body, the 3rd and the 4th will be 1. Covetousness will be 1, and ill will be 1. So 3 there, right? Yes. Greed, wrong view, and hatred. Then clingings, 2, because most of those clingings there are referring to or are a part of greed. And then, yes, understood? Yes. Hindrances, 8, greed, delusion, hatred, doubt, restlessness, sloth, worry, torpor. Dispositions. How many dispositions altogether?
7.
7. 7. 7. 7. 7. Where are the dispositions? Yes, 7. 7 dispositions. We have sensual lust and attachment to existence as 1, aversion as 1, conceit as 1, wrong views, doubt, ignorance, wrong view, doubt, and ignorance as 3 there. So here, greed, which is the first 2, wrong view, delusion, hatred, doubt, conceit. 6. Fetters. Fetters, according to
10 fetters.
10 fetters, right? The first, sensual lust. The second, attachment to fine material existence. The third, attachment to immaterial existence, all 1, greed. Then we have aversion, hatred, conceit, wrong view 1, adherence to rites and ceremonies falls under wrong view, doubt 1, restlessness, and ignorance restlessness.
And ignorance is not.
Yeah. So restlessness is there as one. And ignorance falls under delusion. Okay?
Yes.
Got it?
Yes. Bhante.
Everyone? Hey, Mali? Okay. Defilements. What are the defilements? Dasa kilesa. Greed, 1. Hatred, 1. Delusion, 1. Conceit, 1. Conceit, 1. Wrong views, 1. Doubt, 1. Sloth, 1. Restlessness, 1. Shamelessness, 1. Fearlessness of wrongdoing is also fearlessness. 1. Fearlessness.
There is 1.
Yeah.
Fearless.
Yes. So 10 altogether there. Right? Now,
Yes.
8 o'clock. Is that clear? Can we move on to the next part?
Yes.
Compendium of mixed categories. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
The compendium of mixed categories. Verse 15, roots. In the compendium of mixed categories, there are 6 roots. Greed, hatred, delusion, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Guide to verse 15. The compendium of mixed categories is so called because it presents classificatory schemes which include wholesome, unwholesome, and morally indeterminate factors together on the roots, right? The compendium of mixed categories is so called because it presents classificatory schemes that include wholesome, unwholesome, and morally indeterminate factors together. Okay, right. 16, jhana factors, right? The 7 jhana factors: initial application, sustained application, zest, one-pointedness, joy, displeasure, equanimity. Guide to verse 16. The word jhana is not used here in the usual sense of meditative absorption, but in the broader sense of close contemplation of an object. Therefore, the states listed here are considered jhana factors even when they occur outside a meditative framework. Is that clear? Okay. These 7 chaitasikas are called jhana factors because they enable the mind to closely contemplate its object. Of them, displeasure is exclusively unwholesome and occurs only in the 2 chittas connected with aversion. The other 6 can be wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate. Right? In wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate. So just as a sort of a FYI, this is the way the Dhamma Sangani is also laid out. Right? Where you will have the different, here we have 7 chittas. So the Dhamma Sangani would take 1 chitta and then explain it as wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate, with its breaking down of Khandha, Ayatana, Dhatu, Satcha. Right? So this is kind of like how you would see the Dhamma Sangani. Right? Now, of them, displeasure, the 6th one, is exclusively unwholesome, whilst the rest can be wholesome, unwholesome, or indeterminate. Is that clear? Do you understand why it is yes?
Why displeasure is considered as a jhanic factor?
Because of the essence.
Because of the
essence.
Okay.
Because of the essence. Why? Jhana is is we translated absorption, right?
Yeah.
And a moment of absorption happens every moment. Even now, Damsiri, as I'm listening to you and you're listening to me, there are moments of absorption that arises with regards to the objects that we are sharing now.
Yeah.
Hence, they are referred to as jhana.
Okay.
Yeah, because we cannot know an object without being able to closely contemplate that object. The jhanic factors allows the mind to closely contemplate that object. Do you understand? Everyone else? Yeah. Okay. Any questions, Noeli? Question? Hari. Can we move on? Is it clear? Okay. Yeah. Path factors. 12 path factors. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. 9. Wrong view, wrong intention, wrong effort, wrong concentration. Right? Here, the word path is used in the sense of that which leads to a particular destination. That is, towards the blissful states of existence, the woeful states, and Nibbana. Of the 12 factors, the first 8 lead to the blissful states and Nibbana. Now, although this chapter has a lot to do with reading, please don't disregard it in any way, because these things will come up in the other books. So if we are doing the Dhamma Sangani or the Vibhanga, these things come up very often, right? And this, remember that this book is an entrance to the 7 books, right? So that is why they're laying the foundation here. So you might be confused. Why are they mentioning all of this? You know, it is because these are the key words and the representations that are required to go into the other 7 books. Okay? Right. Of the 12 factors, the first 8 lead to the blissful states and Nibbana. The last 4 lead to woeful states. These 12 path factors can be reduced to 9 cetasikas. Right view is the cetasika of wisdom, right intention, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are, respectively, the cetasikas of initial application, energy, mindfulness, and one-pointedness, found in the wholesome and indeterminate chittas with roots. I'm sorry, let me just read that again, okay? Of the 12 factors, the first 8 lead to blissful states and Nibbana. The 4 lead to woeful states. These 12 path factors can be reduced to 9 cetasikas. Right view is the cetasika of wisdom. Right intention, can you put a star or mark that as important, please? Right intention, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are respectively the cetasikas of initial application, energy, mindfulness, and one-pointedness, found in the wholesome and indeterminate chittas with roots. Okay, with roots. Now, before we move on, let's finish reading. With roots. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood are the 3 abstinences, virati, found collectively in the supramundane chittas and separately on particular occasions in mundane, wholesome chittas. Mundane, wholesome chittas. Now, bring your attention back to a couple lines above. The cetasika of initial application is right intention. right? Now, that would then give us a deeper understanding of right intention itself and how right intention should work, isn't it? Initial application is right intention, right? Energy is, of course, right energy, right effort, I'm sorry. Mindfulness is right mindfulness, and concentration, one-pointedness, is right concentration, right? I think the interesting part here is the initial application, which is right intention. Initial application, which is right intention. Yeah. Yes, Padma.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that the same as vitakka then?
Yes. Initial application is vitakka.
Okay. But you did say when we were doing meditation that vitakka is a, I don't know, but I understood, I thought vitakka was a little problem, sort of causing problems. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's
Yes, it is same. It is, nothing changes. It is the same.
right.
Here, what we must realize is the right intention at the moment of meditation, right? Now what they claim here is with regards to the path factors, right? Right, and right intention being a part of the Eightfold Noble, the Eightfold Noble Path. During the time of meditation, right intention does not exist within right mindfulness or right one-pointedness. It is the essence of right intention that affects right mindfulness. I'm sorry, Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi. Do you understand? Now, if we are to take an example of a waterfall, right? Now the water crashes with its speed to that bottom of the waterfall. I don't know what you call it, right? The speed is not dependent upon that pit that it falls into. It's dependent upon that water which comes from up. In the same way, the Eightfold Noble Truths, it's a process that flows. Without the first, the second will not stand. Without the second, the third will not stand. But at the third, the first and the second are present. Do you understand? Is that clear, everyone? Meaning, it is as if, you study for your medical exams or your engineering exams, not to exclude anyone, or whatever exam that you have done. And now you're working, right? You're not carrying your medical books around everywhere. But the service that you're doing is because you have the essence of those medical books that you've studied. The same thing applies here. But in the Dhamma, the thing is, when the essence is understood, it changes you. When one truly adheres and understands and discerns the value of metta, it changes you. Do you understand? That essence is now within you, in your practice. That needs not be reminded if it is present within the subconscious, within the consciousness. And how is it present? It is present within the Chetasika structure, which goes on to supporting that moment of mindfulness. Do you get it? Is that clear? Right? So vitakka in the sense of having to remind your mind or remind yourself during the practice is a disturbance. So we went through a sutra ourselves, isn't it? Dhamma Vitakka. Dhamma Vitakka is an hindrance. Vipassana kilesha. Remember? Yeah. Vipassana kilesha. That is because Dhamma should not be carried, it should be felt. That is how, in the same way, I think that beautifully sets in or is fitting to also the description of what we discussed, the omniscience. You know, that is why Buddhas are able to be so light-hearted whilst having this enormous knowledge base, because they're not carrying it in their heads. They can advert to it when they choose to, because they have the skill to do so. It is as if you are really, really good at maths, you know, really, really prodigiously good at maths, you know, any equation that you, or formula that is put to you, you can solve it. In the same manner, you don't need to remember each and every formula on the planet or each and every sort of equation on the planet. You can solve the equation with the skills in maths that you have. It's something like that. Is it understood? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, now where are we? Okay. Right speech, right action, and right livelihood are the three abstinences found collectively in the supramundane chittas and separately on particular occasions in the mundane, and separately on particular occasions in the mundane wholesome chittas. We covered that ground in the Sampayoga and the Sangraha, remember, right? Charts. Of the four path factors, of the four wrong path factors, wrong view is a Chetasika of views and is the only exclusively unwholesome Chetasika among the path factors. Of the four wrong path factors, wrong view is the Chetasika of views and is the only exclusively unwholesome Chetasika among the path factors. The other three factors are, in order, the Chetasikas of initial application, energy, and one-pointedness in the unwholesome chittas. In the unwholesome, that's a very interesting point. Please put a star or something there as well, right? Because that will also come. So that whole sort of, really, that whole sort of section, really, you know, with the jhana factors to the path factors, all of that, yeah? So don't sort of put it aside, right? Make sure that you remember. Now, in order, the Chetasikas of initial application, energy, and one-pointedness to what? To the unwholesome chittas, right? Which is wrong view, wrong intention, wrong effort, wrong concentration. Now they're speaking about wrong intention, wrong effort, and wrong concentration based on or applied to the unwholesome consciousnesses. Now that gives us a different dimension into what the unwholesome processes and what sort of supports that unwholesome process. Doesn't it? Yeah, I think it does. I think it's quite special, actually. Right. Any questions? Okay.
Bhante?
Yes, Devi.
Yes. You started reading on page 273, the paragraph of the four wrong path factors. That's what we were going through, and you said to put a star there, like
yes.
Halfway. Yes. And then did we start Did you start reading? There are no distinct path factors of wrong speech? No. You didn't start there.
No.
Okay. That's what I want. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
There are no distinct path factors. There are no distinct path factors of wrong speech, wrong action, and wrong livelihood. Since these are simply unwholesome modes of conduct motivated by defilements. Now, what does that mean? Why doesn't it have? Because unwholesome cannot build anything, right? Because its function and feature is to disrupt, not to build, right? So, for example, if you are a person with the potential and capability of being happy, unwholesome will disrupt, not the happiness that doesn't exist, disrupt the potential of you attaining and achieving that happiness. Its function is to disrupt, not to build, right? Not to build. So then going to the hellish realms, going to sort of Avici, Apaya, Narakadiya, what is that about? Isn't it paving that position befalls a person because of the state of mind, not because of a path leading there? Do you understand? The journey to Nibbana cannot be, or even let's forget about Nibbana, the journey to heaven is not the same as the journey to hell. The result of hell comes about wholly on disruption rather than on a basis of building. No bodhisattva goes to hell on purpose. But bodhisattvas do go to heaven on purpose. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I feel like no. Maybe I should actually sleep before this session and then get up and teach. You know, I feel like I'm mumbling. Okay. Again, right? Again. Let's take a person who is two people. One is the metta field and the other is the hate, right? The metta field person builds on a skill, builds on mental resilience, builds on understanding, right? Builds on that. The person, the hateful person, disrupts, fails to see reason, lets emotions lead, doesn't choose to be within the present, but chooses to be within the past, or act within the past, or hold in the past as a whatever. You get what I mean? Do you understand? There is no essence of building, rather a removal from reality and holding on to a position which again is disruption itself. There is no building mechanism in unwholesome. If you are standing on a bit of stability in your life, a bit, just say this is the only stable thing in your life. What unwholesome does is gets rid of that stability. Now what do? You fall. Do you understand what I mean now? Right? That is what unwholesome does. Unwholesome does not have the sophistication to build. Unwholesome only has the ability to disrupt. Yes.
But Bhante, does it mean the path is closed or something?
The path is closed. What do you mean, Sujata?
Because now he has no intention of going to the lower side. I mean, the treading on the wrong path. I may be wrong, but I'm confused myself.
Please repeat the question, please.
Yeah, I just asked whether the path is closed for the two people, one who's aspiring to go to the higher level, the other who is going to the other level. A lower will say, am I wrong? I'm sure I'm wrong there.
The path to where?
Whichever path they want to lead to is being blocked for them. I'm confused, I think.
Bhante, you mean when you are meditating, different stages in the meditation situation, so this defilements comes and your stability in focusing on meditation takes away.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, thank you.
That's correct.
Now also, Bhante, kusala can develop. No? Kusala can develop, akusala can't.
Kusala cannot.
Cannot, yeah.
Right. Kusala can develop, akusala cannot. Now, does anyone want to, put forward something to prove my statement wrong? I feel like there is one thing. No? What is the only position which can then sort of question, no, this, with regards to unwholesome not having the ability to build?
I think it comes with that meditation experience, isn't it, Bhante? That's how I understand.
No, there is one specific part of Dhamma which speaks or which shows a certain build-like mechanism of unwholesome. What is that? Do you remember? Latent tendencies. Right? Latent tendencies. Yeah? Because we don't have latent tendencies that are kusala.
Yeah.
We only have latent tendencies which are akusala. Of course, there's a school of thought which says that there are positive latent tendencies, but that is only the popular belief is that latent tendencies, there are no such latent tendencies for kusala, only akusala, right? So akusala. So how does that work there? When you do the same thing, now we spoke about building, no, we took this example, unwholesome takes away the stability. So how are you able to build, right? That's in itself the keen way that unwholesome works. In the same way that an essence is taken forward, this latent tendency is an essence of practice. Is an essence of practice, right?
You will not give in to the defilement.
Yes.
You don't let it fall, Bhante. If you're really meditating and if this defilement comes, you won't give it to that because you will be.
If the defilements come, it will fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
It will fall. You can't stop it from falling. You can reduce the damage, but it will fall. Right? That is why in jhana, it says that the defilements do not arise, because the moment the defilements arise, the jhana falls and all your attainments fall. So it will fall. Because it is not. So this is the jhana consciousness, and it is, and this is the defilement. It doesn't go like this. The defilement arises here.
Yeah.
You say no to that.
No, how can you say no to this?
Bhante, yeah,
No,
it
but the
is.
difference is
So you have to this happened at the initial stages, right? As you develop your mental stability, and that's the only way you can stop it happening.
As long as under the houses there will be sewage pipelines, there will be cockroaches in the houses, right? As long as your house is near a beach, there will be rats in your house. You can't stop it. The only thing that you can do is uproot or move somewhere else. When the hindrances, Shriyani, yes, the jhanas can be powerful, but remember, even the most powerful of austeric jhanic practitioners fell. How many stories of the Bodhisattva coming for dana from the sky and leaving after having bedded the queen consort, leaves walking? Stories of how powerful jhanic practitioners fell. As long as the hindrance is present, the smell, it will reap. And one fine day, it will come up. Right? That is what the Buddha says. Right? That is what the Buddha says. So the hindrance arises from within. Do not think that the hindrance is in the pretty woman or the handsome man or whoever it is who's walking past you. That is not the hindrance. The hindrance is here.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because the moment the hindrance comes up, which is, it doesn't even come like this. It comes like, it's just, if this is the contrary, it just comes like this. It just arises spontaneous. And if it does, this will disappear. Because this will not be present when this is present.
Yes, understand.
When
yes, understand.
You perform a dana from the best of heart, the moment that you allow the unwholesome to arise, finish.
Yes, understand.
This will not be present when this is present.
Yes, understand.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't sort of creep, it just arises.
Yeah.
Why? Because that potential is there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the potential is there. In the latent tendencies, why it is known as these are behaviors, these are things that we've done. Remember that Arahant who used to bring his food up and chew it at night, and he was the only monk in the whole sasana who was allowed to eat after midday. Right? Why? Because for 500 lives he was a cow or a bull.
Yes.
Right? Who used to do that. Right? Now, the Buddha said that's a latent, that was a vasana. Right? How that vasana is even more subtle than an anusaya. It is not an anusaya, it is not a defilement, but it is even more subtle. Right? The example which is given is Ramutti Rane it Raha Suhanda Tienama. Suhanda or Ganda, whatever you would choose to call it. Whatever you would choose to call it, Suhanda or Ganda, the remnants of the liquid is there. Right? Now, in the same manner, these, as it built a vasana, it is what we do that builds or leaves that essence of behavior, habit within us, which is the latent tendency. But now we need more time, but it's okay. But now this can be habit is what vasana is. Latent tendency is potential. Do you understand? Right? When you do something, it can be a habit. But when you, for example, if you've tasted blood, right? You've not done it too often that it becomes a habit where you need to now taste blood like a vampire, right? But the taste of blood leaves you now with potential. Do you understand? That potential is that latent tendency. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Can I go to bed now?
Bhante, you took a bad example. Taste of blood.
Blood.
No, I've been watching this series about. Oh, I thought it was blood here. It's my. I was watching this series about vampires. You see, just.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll continue next week. Okay. Lovely. I will see you over the weekend. Take care.
Yeah.
And goodbye.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. Good night.